are two wolves inside you. One of them is a commentary on queer relationships. The other one is also a commentary on queer relationships, but like in a different way. If you're new here and you clicked on this video without noticing the part 2 in the title, don't worry, I'm gonna catch you up really quick. We're trying to answer the question, what is Juno's dark secret? Because everyone in the drama club has had some kind of dark past, right? We first looked at the most common theory, the theory that she's a wolf-dog hybrid, and then went on to look at it from like an alternative angle. We've been working through all of her encounters with her love interest to see if we can glean anything from them. We've already gone through both relationships with Haru and Legoshi, and from those relationships, we are starting to deduce a hypothesis. A hypothesis that's going to be expanded on with the most important relationship in this theory, Juno's relationship with Louis the Red Deer. You can still go back and watch part 1 first if you prefer, but you can totally view this out of order if you want to. Part 1 is just going to give you some extra context on why I'm analyzing the theory from this angle specifically. Let's go back in time, all the way back to chapter 31. Remember how I said I'd come back to this in Louis' section? You're about to see why. If you've read or watched Beastars, then you definitely remember this scene. It's dark. The drama club has ended. Everyone has gone home, except for Juno and Louis. Juno quietly sings to herself as she cleans, a single spot illuminating the room. Louis comes out of his office, surprised to see Juno still there, and asks her why she's working in the dark. She tells him that he doesn't mind. Wolves are most nocturnal after all. And a spotlight is the perfect setting for a stage, so since Louis is already here, perhaps it can help her practice her dance. Louis obliges, thinking to himself that this is the first time the two of them have ever been alone. He critiques her dancing, telling her that she's not moving smoothly enough and that she won't blend in with the other dancers. He takes her hands and guides her in a dance, telling her that she doesn't need to worry so much. She's a pretty girl, and as long as she looks like she's having a good time, the guys will be happy to watch her regardless. Juno is obviously offended by this, and Louis apologizes for being accidentally sexist. She tells him it's okay, gripping his hands tightly as she slowly overpowers him. She knows he hates her. In fact, he hates all carnivores, doesn't he? So put yourself in Louis' shoes for a second here. You're an herbivore. You can't see in the dark. You're all alone with another carnivore. It's late. No one else knows you two are here. You just offend this carnivore, who is about as tall and much stronger than you are. She has grabbed your hands and pinned you underneath her, her jaws hanging inches from your face. You're too weak to move. She just told you that she knows you hate her kind. In this moment, you scream, right? Like, you are fully gonna die. This bitch is gonna eat you. But that's not what he says. He says,
"What do you want? Are you trying to kiss me?"
I guess we're not the only ones feeling the sexual tension in this scene, goddamn. If he just said this like one thing offhandedly, I would just chalk this up to like being nervous. But here's that scene continues.
No, I'd never do that. Because if I kissed you, I might not be able to stop myself from devouring you. And then I'd be in real trouble.
Yada yada, she's gonna be the next beastar and get her man. Chapter 32, then will you turn the lights off?
You proved your strength already. Actually, I might prefer to be devoured by you than by Legoshi or Bill.
Okay, what are we doing, my man? Why are we flirting in this situation? But she lets him go and says that she has no desire to break her fangs at him. This surprises him, given her ambition, to which she replies,
Can't I be ambitious?
I didn't say you shouldn't be, but your ambition seems to stem from an extremely inflated sense of self-worth. You believe you can have beauty, status, males, anything you want. Your wish has already been fulfilled, but I'll prevent you from getting your second wish. Your third wish to make Legoshi your mate, that won't be easy. It'll be a lot harder than you think. I guess it'll be a good reality check for someone as arrogant as you. Change your dance moves like I told you to.
So, on one hand, Louis does not see this overpowering by carnivore woman to be threatening, but rather slightly erotic. On the other hand, Juno has just revealed a pretty vulnerable side of herself to Louis. She's made this huge effort to step away from this negative perception that people have of her because she's a carnivore. So the fact that she's sort of bearing her heart and revealing her ambitions to Louis, calling him out for a sexist remark, overpowering him, and like confidently declaring her goals, it's at once a display of her power to intimidate, but it's also her exposing herself to him in a way that conveys like a certain amount of trust and respect. She's treating him like a legitimate peer and rival, not as some sort of like weak herbivore that needs protection. At the same time, Louis is treating her the same way. He definitely has some hang-ups around carnivores and beautiful women and how life seems so much easier for them compared to how much he's had to work and earn the life he has. That's an attitude that will shift pretty dramatically when he becomes a member of the shishigumi. Juno, throughout the series, never seems to show any real desire to eat meat. We're going to meet up with the two of them in the black market in a second, and she explicitly states that she held her nose the whole time. She also said in the section where they talked about Haru that getting along with herbivores is simple and easy for her. In fact, the only time she mentions biting or eating herbivores only comes up in like a context of somewhat erotica, as well as like something in her brain is getting signals mixed up. Something kind of similar to what we see with Utsugi. The female jackal also explicitly states that she doesn't desire meat, but will still get drunk enough to suppress her urges when she goes to a special community species party, where she is very overtly flirting with an herbivore. Calling all the way back to the hybrid theory section, Addie also states that she hadn't desired to devour another herbivore until she started being intimate with Garome. There does seem to be an in-universe phenomenon where carnivorous women who are attracted to herbivores don't crave meat until they're in like a romantically charged situation. I mean, hell, maybe we can even include Bellen's mom in this, since it's confirmed that she didn't eat her antelope husband. Anyway, keep that in your back pocket because we're going to skip forward to chapter 57. The hearts simply drew closer together. At this point in the story, Louis has stopped going to school and is living in the black market. He hasn't told anyone where he is, and no one has gone looking for him. No one, except Juno. She's gone out of her way to track him down and see him again, putting herself in a very dangerous situation to do so. So, Louis and Juno step out into the night, taking a walk through the seedy streets of the black market. He asks her about Legoshi and Haru, and she tells him that they're both safe after the encounter with the gang that he is now leading. He's astonished she found him, and she explains that before he left, he had a very emotionally vulnerable conversation with her, that he felt like he was a failure and that he was no good on the stage, he couldn't even save his woman. She was able to take this info and use it to find out where he was. He thanks her, but she's not interested in his thanks. She is deeply worried about him and kind of angry that he's making decisions that could severely impact his future. He tells her society isn't this equal, idealized place that Cherryton tries to display, and that the things that rule this world are physical strength and money. Him being pushed forward as some hero who could be a beastar is just a dishonest promotion, so why go there at all? The conversation shifts from here. Louis tells Juno she's grown up and asks if she was rejected by Legoshi. She clearly denies it, but then admits that he's not totally wrong. Still, she reaffirms that she doesn't think he's really given up on his morality and values. He tells her that he's simply accepting society for what it is. He then asks her how her dancing's going and if she's improved at all. He again says that she's beautiful, but not a great dancer. She is indignant about this and declares that she is the star of the drama club in his absence. I think that this question was partially him showing genuine interest in something that Juno cares about, but I also think that he wanted to see if she cared enough to take the advice that he gave her, and I think that he wanted to call her beautiful again, but felt awkward and add in a little jab to have it come across as a little more nonchalant. Juno doesn't pick up on this and tells him to dance with her so she can prove her improvement. They dance together in the street, Juno laughing that Louis is not the one who's dancing stiffly. Smile, and they laugh, and they blush, and they dance. Ow. The more Juno thinks about it, the more the tears fall down her face. She berates him, telling him that he's not limited by society's views, and he absolutely has the power to do or become whatever he wants to be. She declares that she's going to make her own choices and become somebody. Louis tells her,
But you're already somebody.
Louis has like this very honest and genuine relationship with Juno that's just like so different from relationship with Legoshi. Legoshi is nice to Juno, and he seems to like being around her, but he's like that with just about all of his peers. Louis is a lot more guarded and even antisocial sometimes. So when he drops a mask and really befriends and connects with somebody, it's a pretty special thing. He only does it with a few people throughout the series. We see the surprising closeness of this relationship come to an unexpected climax in chapter 105, The Man of Destiny is Devoured. This chapter takes place after Legoshi has defeated Riz. Beastars doesn't have arcs in the traditional sense, so I'd say this chapter is kind of in the space between the murder mystery story to the high school dropout story. At this point, Legoshi has eaten Louis' leg and dropped out of Cherryton, and Louis and Haru have just graduated. Juno is the only one left of the four who's still in high school. She's going on her second year. She runs into Louis at the school. He's in the hallway that's been converted from a crime scene into a shrine to their murdered classmate, Tem. She congratulates him on graduating. He hesitates and then thanks her. She says he looked disappointed when he saw her and must have wished that she was someone else. He refutes this.
That's not why. How can I put it? I don't know how to behave around you because of what we went through together.
Turns out, Juno's the only student who knows that Louis was in the black market for 6 months. She's a little exasperated, going to the black market, dropping out of school. What's up with her guy friends when rebelling against society? Suddenly, Louis asks if she's ever seen a prosthetic limb before. She's caught off guard and says she hasn't. He asks if she wants to see his, and she agrees. She's impressed and asks if he can walk with it. He says it's not so bad as long as he does his physical therapy. She's surprised that he's showing this to her, but the more she thinks about it.
Come to think of it, we've always revealed parts of ourselves to each other that we never shown to anyone else. And we're alone. Just the two of us.
Seeing Juno gaze into his eyes, Louis suddenly starts stammering. Deers lose their horns every year. He's not gonna freak out over a lost leg. He's not a coward.
That's right. And He's always vacillating between maturity and childlikeness.
Louis mistakes her gaze as pity and gets defensive. He's grossly mistaken, however, because as soon as he finishes his sentence, Louis is shocked, his eyes wide open, his body stiff. She draws back, and they look at each other. He closes his eyes, and they kiss again.
She's still kissing me.
He thinks to himself as multiple classmates walk by in shock. Now, we're about to get to a very important part of the manga, and a pretty significant shift in how both Louis and Juno are going to handle this new aspect of their relationship. But before we do, I want to take a very brief aside and talk about Beastar in the context of medium and translations. It's very relevant, I promise. So, in my opinion, there are 3 ways to experience Beastars if you are an English speaker. You either experience it through the anime, through the official Viz Media translated mangas, or through online scanlations. Each of these will preserve the same basic beat to the story, but some finer details will be changed or cut entirely. A lot of people who live in the West who are fans of Beastars most likely heard of it when the Studio Orange anime was adapted and now it's on Netflix. I think it's safe for me to say that the vast majority of Western audience that has read the manga has also watched the show. I don't think that this is the case in reverse though. So there is a chance that a decent amount of you watching this video who are fans of Beastar have watched the anime but have not read the comics. So let me address y'all directly here because you might be getting a little confused at this point or feel like you might be misremembering things. You're not. I do like the show, but when a story is a manga and anime adaptation, I generally prefer the manga adaptation. Not always, but at least in the case of Beastars, this is how I prefer to experience the story. And this is what I use for all my research and analysis. Any anime footage I've been showing in the B-roll is just for visual interest. So if some scenes I'm describing to you seem different than you remember, it's probably because of the anime changed it. There's a lot of extra emotional nuances that get lost in anime, partly for time, probably because of limitations of the animation. So if it seems like there's a lot of extra stuff in my analysis, that's why. And I do also want to mention scanlations, since this is how a lot of people read the manga. It takes quite a bit of time for a manga to be translated, redrawn, printed, and published for an English-speaking audience. So the fastest possible way for someone who is a fan of a manga series in Japan to read it somewhere like America or Europe is going to be on the internet. People who are subscribed to Shonen Jump, where a magazine is posting the comic chapters, can take the digital pages, send them to someone who can translate the Japanese to English, and then send that to someone who can draw over the image digitally to alter it. It's an unpaid labor of love, and in some cases, it is the only way for an English speaker to access certain manga and comic strips. So if you were an early fan of Beastars, you probably read the scanlations. The English publisher for Beastars, Viz Media, was about 2 years behind Japan's publishing schedule. To give you an example of how much of a gap this is, when the final volume, volume 22, was released in Japan, the USA had just published volume 11. So understandably, a lot of people got caught up on the internet. And more specifically, they probably read the scanlations by Hot Chocolate Scan's team, which I'll just refer to as HCS in this video. Now the thing with translations is that there's normally more than one way to say something. It can be kind of hard to translate cultural context. For example, Japan has an honorific system of language. You might use different words when talking to someone who's above your grade in school in Japanese, which is of course not something that we do in English. So if someone in the Japanese manga, let's say, didn't use honorifics, the other classroom they're speaking to might become offended. This would be kind of hard to portray in English translation because we just don't talk like that. There's no expectation for our peers to speak to us differently. There's always that, depending on who's translating the work, you can get multiple different translations to varying levels of accuracy. And I'm not here to say that the HCS translators and everyone else who helped translate Beastars did not do a good job translating the comics. I only speak a little bit of Japanese. I'm nowhere near fluent enough to make a judgment on that. But the Viz Media translation was done by Tomoko Kiwamura. And while I couldn't find any internet presence of them, I'm assuming their job is being a translator. So this, by default, would be the most professional translation. I've heard people say that they prefer HCS, and I've heard people say that they speak Japanese and this is a better translation. Some translations are so different that people aren't sure which translation is true, but for the sake of trying to keep things as close as possible to the original Japanese, I personally think this is the best translation to use. If you did read the scanlations and you're in a similar boat as the anime-only fans, where I'm quoting things and you remember it being different, you're probably remembering the HCS version. And again, I am using the Viz version. I do want to shout the team behind HCS though. I do own all the Beastar books physically, but I wanted to have high quality scans that I could show in this video as B-roll. And to do so, I would need to go through and repurchase the Kindle version of all the books I want to talk about, which at this point in the script, we're up to 10 books, I believe. So not cheap, but hypothetically, if I had access to high quality scans, I could just use those instead. Not saying I did, of course, but if I hypothetically did, then I also want to hypothetically thank HCS for having those available. So I'm going to parrot something Paru said in an interview, which is that while she isn't like mad at people who read her work through scanlations and discovered it that way in the West, she does encourage you when the volumes do get published to actually buy the physical digital copies, both to support her and the work she wants to produce. Now, as of recording this, all the Beastars books, apart from some Beast Complex books, have been published both physically and digitally. So if you are not like gone into the comics, if you want to read the comics, I'm going to encourage you to get the officially licensed Viz Media books. I'm not going to make a moral judgment and tell you what is right or is wrong. I'm just going to say from my personal standpoint, because I feel like I have a moral obligation to say, you should support the author and their work. So that's my take on it. For stories that are still coming out and that have not been released in the West yet through Viz Media, like the rest of Sanda and her new series about like the dogs that turn into people, I think it's more morally gray territory. You make your own decision on that one. Anyway, all that to say, I'm analyzing the story from a very specific lens, and as I go to sort of the climax and theory conclusion parts of this video, I like how I'll be engaged with the text with that context. All right, sorry, back to kissing. Louis and Juno pull apart from each other and stare in each other's eyes. Juno, flushed and embarrassed, apologizes and asks Louis to pretend like it never happened. Louis looks to the side and finally draws his hands away.
Fine, I'll forget all about it.
Juno does not like this answer and exclaims,
What do you mean, you'll forget? That was my first kiss!
Louis, now the one who's flustered, retorts that she just asked him to forget about it. Besides, he knows that wolves are overly empathetic and nurturing. She only kissed him because she felt sorry for an herbivore who's missing their leg. She's always taking care of him. Enough already. Juno's taken aback by this. Louis quickly reassures her that he doesn't think her kiss was calculated. It was just her subconscious that made her kiss him. He tells her to enjoy the rest of high school and that he'll see her around, quickly making his getaway. Juno stands there, stunned, tears rolling in her eyes. She just gave her first kiss to an herbivore, and she's just been rejected by one. Okay, so is Louis right? I mean, we've been kind of hinting this whole theory on the idea that Juno's like a closeted herbosexual. So if Louis is right and Juno only kissed him because she felt sorry for him, then, you know, theory is kind of in the water, right? Except no, because I specifically not told you Louis' internal dialogue during this scene until now for dramatic effect. Fear not, this will be rectified now.
I'm saying this because I need to hurt you. You'll only cause problems for yourself. Things get complicated if you love a beast of a different species. Legoshi fell in love with a rabbit. He's still pursuing that relationship, but most beasts don't have his nerves of steel. Juno, I don't want you to be an outcast. I'm doing the right thing, right? Legoshi? Tell me, Legoshi. What's happening to me? How do you know if you're falling in love with a beast of a different species? I need to chill out. It was just a kiss. Why am I so nervous? I know why. I felt something hard behind her lips. Her canines were huge. Yes, that must be it. That must be why I'm so agitated, right?
Louis doesn't think Juno kissed him out of pity. He thinks she genuinely likes him, and he knows how difficult it is to live in society with an interspecies relationship. Not only does he not want it for himself, but he doesn't want it for her. He doesn't want her to walk the same path as Legoshi. Personally, I'm reading a very clear parallel here. Louis and Juno's relationship is kind of becoming a foil of Legoshi and Haru's. Just to be clear, I'm not bringing this up just because it's like an interesting analysis. I'm bringing it up because I need to craft a case that asserts that Juno was into herbivores before this point, which I shall call the deer event. Half an hour synopsing just to be able to get to the actual theory crafting. Jesus Christ. You know, people always complain that YouTubers spend too much time recapping the media when they make these video essays. But if you want to make a theory video, you kind of have to present the media so you can use it as evidence to explain how it supports your theory. If y'all just took the time to reread the entire manga before you clicked on this video, I could have saved myself a lot of editing time, I'm just saying. So how do we prove that Juno was into herbivores before the deer event? Well, we can look forwards and backwards for that. Let's look backwards for a little while, since that Legoshi and Louis recap is probably still fresh in your memory. Okay, there's obviously a lot here, but I've been reiterating a lot of my points as been presenting the evidence, so this shouldn't be too hard to keep up with. So, looking back, we can see that Juno latched onto Legoshi very quickly, despite never really getting to know him. She only spends time with him in the context of being schoolmates. If we really analyze their specific interactions together, Juno never really gets to know Legoshi. She never gets to know that like vulnerable side of him the same way that Louis and Haru do. She isn't wholly cannibal, at least until he's already rejected her, and she similarly doesn't really show her ambitious and calculated side until, again, she's already been rejected. On the flip side, the first moment she gets to know with Louis, she immediately bears herself for him, and he similarly confides in her. They constantly hold each other accountable and reveal parts of themselves to each other they otherwise wouldn't. I don't know how much weight I want to put on terms like chemistry, because it's such a nebulous thing, but the chemistry between Juno and Legoshi versus Juno and Louis is starkly different. One feels very much like infatuation, a juvenile one-sided crush, and one feels a lot more mature, compatible, and emotionally vulnerable. While this is obviously due to Louis and Legoshi being separate people, I do think there is a deliberate correlation between Louis being an herbivore and Legoshi being a carnivore. Legoshi is very obviously an herbosexual. He's not sexually attracted to carnivores. It is stated to be a fetish in the text, but while Legoshi is attracted to Haru physically, he loves her much more than he lusts after her. He constantly reiterates his goal is not to be intimate with her, but to marry her, to have a family with her. So I think it's fair to say that it's not just a fetish. I'm sure there does exist like that kind of thing in this universe. I think that Cosmo is proof of that. But I do also think that could take the form of a sexual orientation, which is why I've been using the term herbosexual instead of herbivore fetish. Louis is, I don't even know what word to use here, a bivore. He's attracted to Haru enough that he's like pretty involved in a love triangle with her during the early chapters, but he's also very enamored with and attracted to carnivores. We can tell this by his reaction to kissing Juno and feeling her canines that her carnivore traits are exciting to him. When she was able to overpower him at the drama club, his response wasn't fear, but to flirt. So we could probably put Juno in this category, right? I don't think so. Let's look forward at the rest of her interactions with Legoshi and Louis after the deer event, and I'll circle back on why I think this is not the case. Part 3 is, at time of recording, planned to be the final part. I'm going to go over everything post-deer event between Juno and Louis. I'm going to break down my final thoughts and tie the entire theory together. When I originally pitched out this theory, I said it might end up being over an hour, and honestly that was way too conservative. It will end up being well over an hour in its entirety. If you are a returning viewer from part 1 of the Juno video, thank you for being patient with me as I work on this and other projects. You are all appreciated. If you are new here and this is your first time meeting me, hi! I make videos on various types of media, including beastars, but I also make videos on video games, cartoons, comics, etc. I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you do want to be here for part 3, and if you want to be here for the other cool videos we'll be putting out. They're also good, you should also check them out. For beastar specific videos, check out part 1 of the Juno theory if you haven't seen it yet, and I have a beastars video up on my Ko-Fi that's specifically about the boys from the room 701. That's available over my Ko-Fi at any tier or any one-off donation in the description, and then when it goes right back in the channel to make better videos for y'all. I also have a Tumblr if you want to talk beastars or theories, suggest videos, or just say hi. My asks are open, and that is a good way to stay up to date with what projects I'm currently in the pipeline. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome, and remember,